I'm Erin Elliott, and I'm here with Andrea Quagenti. So, Andrea, you said you'd like to start with just giving us some background about how you found out about Bashar. So,
Yeah, awesome. Hi. Thank you for having me and inviting me. Yeah, so I have been aware of a fan of Bashar and aware of his materials since probably um, around 2015-ish. So I was really into psychics and communicating with passed over loved ones. And then I built off a knowledge of growing up. Was raised Catholic. So I was really into the saints and Mother Mary and Jesus. And when my mom would talk about those figures, I would connect to them. So I could actually feel them. So I always felt really connected to spirit. And then I kind of moved when some people in my life started to pass, I started to get into spirit communication, which then got me into channeling. So people channeling spiritual figures, and I would go to a lot of mediums to talk to my passed over grandparents, and I had a friend that passed over, and I was just really curious about connecting with them, and I did. So then I went from there into channeling. Because I always felt that not only was I connected to spirit, but when I was relaxed, I would just channel information. And I didn't know what I was doing, and it would freak me out and it would freak other people out a little bit. Not that I was speaking in tongues, but I would just say things before they happened. Or let's see, I would say something about someone that had passed over that no one else knew. So I was kind of channeling, not in the sense of Bashar where I'm sitting down for an hour plus and giving information. It was kind of sporadic. So I finally realized, wait a minute, this is actually a gift. This isn't just some like weird thing that just happens every now and then. So I wanted to kind of unlock my intuition. And yeah, so a friend of mine, I got into being a light worker and law of attraction and all this kind of stuff. And Abraham Hicks was huge for me for a while, and I still do love them. And then a light worker told me about Bashar and said, oh, is it too creepy for you that he's channeling like an ET? And I was like, no, that totally makes sense. I love the idea of star families, and I do feel sometimes that I connecting. So that was years ago. So now he's probably my favorite spiritual teacher right now. The information he says just resonates with me so deeply. And a lot of, I feel like I've opened up a lot just from listening. And then, as you know, I had an interaction with him in September, which was quite awesome. So yeah, that's just kind of my background, and yeah, how I'm loving the material now.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. So that was your first interaction back in September in Shells of Earth, right? The Shells of Earth. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And was that exciting for you? I guess it was. Yeah.
It was so exciting. And, just like I was saying, even just for us, we scheduled this call about a week ago. And when I had scheduled the interaction with him, things, as soon as I make the commitment, so you know how Bashar says you have to take action. As soon as I take that action, I can feel, I'm so sensitive, things start to shift. So that was pretty big, because as soon as I got in touch with his people and started setting dates, I could already feel a lot. Yeah. So very, very exciting. It's, even though I have my own connection, I can connect to loved ones, and I can connect to ETs, which that's a newer frequency that I'm learning to tune into. Mm-hmm. Where, because I naturally just kind of hang out in like the angelic realm is kind of my happy place. So it's different to go to different frequencies for me. But yeah, it was very awesome, and it was definitely my highest passion. And I think what happens is when I do take step towards my passion, I get a lot of bumps in the road, like right around that time with Bashar, I was like stubbed my toe, and I had to ice it for a couple weeks, and all these things just kind of, yeah. So a lot comes up for me when I take action towards my passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's part of the process and part of the challenge, to redefine those things as part of it, and to learn to enjoy, to transform those things. So I know one of your major passions, and I heard you talking to Bashar about this, is raising your daughter. So if you would like to tell us about a little bit about how you integrate Bashar's teachings into that.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So yeah, I did ask Bashar about my daughter, and he had already told us, he had already given us 3 main points on how to raise children and about the new education system. And I have them. I'm just going to look just so I can speak to it. So just even before I had heard Bashar's tips or points, I had heard from Abraham Hicks about the Sudbury School, which is an alternative school in Massachusetts, and I live in Massachusetts. So when I was pregnant, so my daughter's 8, so let's say I was pregnant 9 years ago, that's when I was really into Abraham Hicks. So preparing to have a child, I was listening to all of the Abraham Hicks on raising children and alternative education, because for me, when I looked back at I was traditionally, I went to public and then I went to private schools, and it was just kind of a meh experience for me. It wasn't great. It wasn't really terrible, but I thought, I knew that I was very curious to see, is there a better way? Like what's a more modern way to honor the child? So Abraham Hicks suggested the Sudbury School, and I started to look into that and listen to them. And I was just like, oh my, it just felt so awesome, because so the Sudbury School is similar to what a lot of Bashar people, so you can call it the new education system. There's a whole bunch of different names for it. But I've become very, very passionate about implementing this. So now I homeschool, and we're using kind of a similar philosophy, which allows the child to follow their own interests and passions rather than a set curriculum.
That's very exciting.
It's so exciting. It's so much more fun because you don't have to force the children, because they're excited. It's their passion. I'm just looking at what Bashar says. The 3 main points that Bashar has talked about: a new education system that's going to replace the old. So the first part is that teachers and educators and parents have a safe space for children to naturally learn the consequences of their choices. So, yes, so we do it in a homeschool format, but there's also schools like this all over the world, which we're actually starting a little group this week, which is so exciting. So we may evolve into our own, when I say we, I mean me and my daughter, we might evolve into our own alternative school. Yeah, I'm so excited. It's yeah. So, that main point is that, you basically have a safe space, and this is great because this goes with my spiritual training as well. I used to host intuition groups and spiritual groups, moon groups, and it's really about holding space. So creating an environment where people feel safe, they can relax, and then they can allow their creativity to come through, their intuition. So now I'm working with children, and it's not that I'm helping them channel dead people or talk to angels or even ETs, but instead we're just, we, meaning other parents and facilitators, are just creating a safe space for them to be free. And, just kind of naturally, well, if I climb that tree too high, what's going to happen? So it's just, it's a safe space. It's a safe container for children to be free and be natural. So that's one of the points. Let me see. The other one, teach them that they are powerful to create whatever is needed without hurting themselves or others. So the way I interpret that one is we're not about competition at all. What, the US public school system has competition right in its mission statement. So the new style of education, it's all about cooperation, collaboration, kindness. We're not saying you have to be better, you have to compete. It's not about competition at all. It's about learning that there's enough, and I think this goes into abundance mindset over lack. So if there's a lack of things, then you need to compete for them. But if there's an abundance of supply and jobs, you don't have to compete. It's more of a we're teaching teamwork, collaboration, kindness. It's not a dog-eat-dog world that they need to fight for what they want. It's a kind world. It's an abundant world where children can work together and treat each other kindly. You don't have to rob or steal or hurt anyone or have any of that competitive nature, really.
Wow. That reminds me of synchronicity, just how as the levels of synchronicity raise and the children become more aware of it, synchronicity is kind of like a lubrication for things to run smoothly and collaboration and things to work, people to work together instead of competing, because when you're at that vibration where you're in a more loving state and when you're in following your passion, you'll be able to recognize the synchronicity and follow it and use it in your life. So I'm sure that your classroom or your teaching experiences with her, it's going to be synchronicity is going to be a huge part of that too.
It already is.
Yeah.
It already is. So when I did talk to Bashar, my only interaction so far, besides what happens in my own personal channeling, and I was asking him because my daughter talks about Jesus a lot, and although I was raised Catholic, I don't really participate anymore. Although we do some basic holidays, but I decided that I was not going to raise my daughter Catholic, and we were just going to be spiritual. But she has had a very deep connection to Jesus, which is what I asked Bashar about. And he said, well, he asked how old she was, and I said 8. And he said, well, children are not forgetting. So she remembers that. Oh, I'm getting some wind over here. Yeah. So he kind of confirmed what I already know. So a lot of the young children, and some people will call them rainbow children or crystal children, they already speak about angels or saints or Jesus, that, and so he said children being born are not forgetting their connection to spirit. They're not they're remembering it. And then as a parent, we really have a choice. Am I going to allow this to stay open, or am I going to, so what happened to me as a child when I was saying, oh, I'm seeing ghosts and spirit, and St. Anthony came to me, and all of these things I was telling my parents, and they were just, it literally, I mean, is sad as it is, I would get slapped and say, you stop daydreaming. You have to face the real world. Go to, it was all about what they needed me to do. There wasn't time for daydreaming or imagination or even connecting with spirit, because for me, my mom was very intuitive, and we have some old Italian relatives that, my great grandmother, we were all very connected to spirit and very in tune, or what my family calls it, had the gift. Right. So I totally believe I have a gift, and my mom, but they viewed it as bad. It was not that it was that we were going to use it evil, like in an evil way, but just that it was not to be talked about, because people would think you were crazy, and crazy people get locked up. So it was not anything that my mom or even my great grandmother could ever. I mean, I'm a forever student. I love wisdom. I love learning. probably at this point I've taken 30, 40 classes on angels and energy and chakras and yoga and meditation and all of these certifications, but none of that was available for my mom. And so when I was a child, it was shut down. I was told, like, do not, that's not true. What you're experiencing isn't real, and this is real. Life is hard. You know, you have to get good grades. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, creeped out by whatever, you know. So this is exciting for me on many levels, because it also taps into the frequency of transformation. I experienced mental illness as a child because I was experiencing things, but I wasn't allowed to talk about them, and I was told that's not real. So it twisted me. It got me confused, and I suffered. You know, I had depression and all kinds of mental illness. I mean, this was in the 70s and 80s when it wasn't really taken that serious, you know. But I did have so that traumatized me. I didn't start to revisit this until my 30s, when I realized, oh, this is not a curse. This gift, I can expand on this gift. So that's when I started to open up myself. So now, fast forward to raising my own child, I'm not shutting down any of that. When she says, oh, Jesus was my brother, I said, great, tell me more. And when she's done, she's done. It's not that I love the neutral. I love how Bashar says neutral. I just kind of stay neutral. But if she wants to tell me, and she tells me about 2 past lives now, she says one past life she was with Jesus, and then another past life she was a princess. And she'll tell me all about these, and I just let her. I don't shut her down. I don't hit her at all. But so for me, it's healing. And it's also empowering, because I can give her what I needed as a child. I can listen. I can be neutral. So yeah, anyways.
Well, yeah, I think that's wonderful. Because, well, for one reason, I just heard someone ask Bashar, I think it was in the last transmission that I listened to, they were asking, like, how are the hybrid children going to fit in with the children, if there's such a higher vibration than the children we had, the human children, like, how are they going to fit in? And Bashar was like, those children that are being born now are a lot different than the children that had been being born before. They're going to be compatible. And I also heard Bashar say that the children are going to probably be the first ones to kind of connect with the hybrid children, because they'll be on a more similar vibration and brothers and sisters in a way to them. So I think what you're doing with your daughter is just preparing her for ET contact, and in addition to just allowing her to blossom into her true self, it's all the same thing, really. Preparing for ET contact and becoming her true self. So that's beautiful. I'm really excited about you and your daughter and all of the parents who have children like that, who have these gifts, and you're allowing them to explore them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, when I first started to hear about hybrid children, I was kind of like, it just seemed like, I was like, what? And then these bases, but it's all really come together in so many layers of ways, because like I said, from my own experience, feeling spiritually connected and intuitive, from that experience of it being shut down and it not allowing me to be my true self, which caused a lot of turmoil, to then healing and then opening, and now to allow the children to just be themselves from day one, to not shut off their intuition only so that they can grow up confused and then have a crisis and then reopen it. It's kind of the story I hear from a lot of people, a lot of adults, right? So some people call us the indigos, which was like the first generation of kind of way showers that came through. And, you know, I have a very, what's the word? I don't want to say tough, maybe motivated. I've always been very strong-willed. Where my daughter is strong-willed, but she's a lot more, she's sensitive. I was also sensitive, but they're more, I think that these types of children that are remaining spiritually open, usually they're born into homes that are peaceful. They're born to spiritual parents that are open and awake. And I'm meeting more and more. I'm meeting some from the Bashar group, which is awesome, but even just locally in my community, because, you know, obviously COVID, let's just say it's a neutral situation. There's good and bad that's coming from it. Because we've been homeschoolers now for a couple of years. And even before doing homeschool, we did Montessori, which is also a child-led style. So I'm just meeting more and more people from all aspects of my life that are saying, you know, we agree with your philosophy. We do believe that children should be free and to leave these gifts open and to nurture them and let them be their true selves, not tell them they're crazy or that's not. The other big thing is allowing her to be her true self, but not giving her that conditioning that the world is bad. You know, because in that world, there's a lack. There's not enough food. There's not enough money. That money doesn't grow. I don't say any of those. I knew from the beginning that I wasn't going to use that negative programming. And now I'm meeting parents, like I said, all over the world that are doing the same thing. Which is super awesome, because in the beginning I was kind of like, it was a little confusing. So that's part of the reason that Angela and I and some other parents from the Bashar group started the subgroup, which is called Self-Directed Education. And I can give you a link. And it's been great. It started in 2020 after one of Bashar's transmissions where he spoke again about those 3 points. And it's been so awesome to connect with people. And now that I've been studying this and living this for, you know, 8 years or 9 years, I do have a lot of resources. So it's great that I can share those with other parents. And just kind of, I feel like we're building the natural, intuitive, spiritual, you know, this style of education, you know, allowing. So the teachers teach through and that's the third point. The teachers are teaching through the child's passions. So there's no set curriculum. You're not forced, we're not forcing children to sit at a desk for a certain amount of time to do a certain amount of subjects. They're choosing what they're excited about. And reading and math and science and logic and all of those things are incorporated into what they're passionate about.
That's wonderful. I wanted to go back to like just thinking about your daughter's gifts, that she has these connections to these parallel lives. You know, why wouldn't people want that? Why it doesn't make sense to me, like to think, you know, I think almost everyone, if they didn't have negative beliefs about it, would want access to other lives that they're connected to, you know, interesting experiences. And you can download information from these other lives. So I just feel like really excited that your daughter is allowed to explore that and express that. And I think it's going to be an example for other people to kind of resonate with her vibration and even possibly open up to their own parallel lives even more. So I'm glad you shared that.
Thank you. Yeah. And I love your, you know, her tapping into parallel lives or past lives or future lives. She'll talk a lot about the future too. And again, I don't push anything. You know, we do have, we have a very freedom-based life. We do have a lot of free time. But we also have agreements where we both have agreed that sleep is important, nutrition is important, movement, friends, family, contributing to the community. So we have a set agreement, and it might sound strange to some parents. what do you mean, rules? Are those rules? No, I don't come at it that I'm above her. In fact, in some ways, I feel like she's more, the children are fresher from spirit, right? That they're actually more connected, but that can be a slippery slope too, right? So if you're saying, well, I don't know, you know everything. So it's this really delicate balance of holding the container, a safe space, but also keeping to some basic agreements on just how we like to live and what's important to stay healthy. Because, also a lot of these connected children are very sensitive. So being very sensitive, if you continuously put them in an environment that isn't comfortable, like if they don't enjoy public school and you continue to send them, then you see health issues. It can, and we see this, I see this as a homeschool parent, I can see children bouncing out of situations that didn't fit. And now they have a laundry list of diagnosis. They have all of these things, but which is okay, right? I want to look at that neutral as well. But we're in a very transition period. And so I really, like to be gentle and compassionate for the parents that were raised a different way. Maybe they were raised more like me, and I think the reason why my mom did not want me connecting to spirit was because her belief was, you never know what you're going to get. You could get a demon. Now you're possessed. Now I'm going to have a kid that's going to be possessed. My mom didn't know how to manage her vibration, right? So her feeling was that she could contact bad spirits or good spirits. And we had experience with good spirits and bad spirits in my home where crazy stuff was happening. So that's probably why. But I know now as kind of a newer generation that I know how to manage my frequency and vibration. And it's not that I don't feel sad or depressed at times, but when I do feel sad and depressed, I know the tools that I need at that point. And it's not channeling spirit. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel safe connecting with spirit and allowing my child to have that connection and nurture it. But if there is a point, and I also know limits, I mean, if there is a point that I can feel that the energy is really low and she might start seeing something, I know how to just disconnect right away because I know free will and I can manage my frequency to not, to move through uncomfortable situations. So we're not experiencing anything like negative entities attaching to us or all that lower frequency stuff. Luckily, I lived it as a kid. I know how to manage it. So it's not a risk. But I would think some parents who have, I don't know if you must have been connected as a child spiritually.
Yeah. I wasn't, it was in a different way. I didn't really hear voices or see things very much. I don't know how to describe it really, but it's, I mean, it's not really similar to yours. I don't think I felt connected, but it wasn't like with entities very much. It was more like just information kind of, and creativity. I didn't really fit into the school systems very well, although I was able to get good grades and succeed. It was just boring. It was like seemed just one-dimensional to me. So I ended up like getting into drinking as a real young person, like 14, mostly just because I was bored. I wanted to explore new things. And I felt kind of just repressed that I couldn't express myself. And that helped me open up. So that was kind of my journey as far as being a child. And I had experiences where I was out of body and, sleep paralysis and stuff like that. But as far as being consciously aware of specific entities or spirits, I haven't had a lot of that in my life. Since I've gotten into Bashar, I've encountered some, but that's kind of more of a recent thing for me.
Oh, cool. Okay. And it's so cool how everyone's perspective or gift or intuition opens differently, and the types of interactions are different. I mean, I would just say, dealing with children, it's always to be neutral. Just for anyone listening, like, I would just say, just be neutral. If they're excited, ask them to tell you more. When they're done, let them be done. If they bring it up again, talk about it more. If they don't, just move on. But it's funny because I also went through a rebellious drinking, party phase, which was part of, I think, being so controlled, being in such a controlled, boring environment that, like, finally when I had free time, it was, that was a vice for me. And, not that the new children won't go through some type of rebellion, but remember what Bashar says, and you only rebel if you feel that you're being controlled. So really the key to this new education system and conscious parenting, peaceful parenting, is that the parents are not coming from a controlling standpoint. We're not saying, I'm the boss of you, I'm the parent, what I say goes. That's what I heard all the time. So we're saying, okay, we're a family. Let's talk about this. How do you feel? What, we're valuing them. So luckily and hopefully it eliminates that kind of control rebellion cycle.
Well, it's not only that, it's also part of the boredom was that you weren't able to access like the things that you love to do, or you didn't know yourself well enough from a young age. At least that's how it was for me. I mean, it was partially rebellion, feeling controlled, but another side of that was just, I wasn't being cultivated like in the ways that would have brought out my true gifts. And I don't blame my parents for that. They were busy with their own lives and their own stressors. And the teachers had so many kids and they were in this box of what they felt they had to do was, the structure. But so that was a way, to kind of break out of that too. But I just want to say, like, for my son, I learned from my experience. And when I raised him, I exposed him to a lot of creative arts at a young age. And he found his passion very young in music. And he just has continued to develop that. He's in his last year of college at a music. He never went through any sort of rebellious phase. He didn't go through drinking. I mean, he has been drunk a few times, not that many, not like to a dangerous point, just with some friends. But I never had to deal with, the rebellion and any type of addiction or anything like that, because he was always busy doing music. What he loved to do, that was his drug in a sense. That was his high on life. He was high on something that was so true and innate for him. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you. That's good to, and I think you're right with the allowing the creativity. So now you're talking a different, and I don't want to have any judgment to, if some children love traditional schooling and they do well, and that's great. They can still be open and spiritual. You've got two different aspects. You have what's happening at school, what's happening at home. The way I grew up, both systems were telling me the same thing. You're only as good as your next test. What's going on in your imagination? Creativity is secondary. What's most important is for you to do what we want you to do. And now we're in a different attitude. So I think that spiritual parents can have a great relationship with their children, and the children can grow up to be creative and happy, right? Mature. What Bashar says is that if you do follow the new education system, or at least if that's not working, then that's okay too. You can at least honor your child at home, and like you said, introduce them and allow those creative juices to flow. And then, so what he says is, it brings mature, balanced, creative adults. Mature, balanced, creative adults. And, that's my goal as a parent. I'm sure a lot of parents have that goal as well.
Yeah. One thing I want to say is that my son, he actually did go to the public schools. And another thing that you can do if you feel like you just don't have the support system to teach at home, or that's not your highest passion to do that, you can still be involved with the teachers at the school. You can chaperone, you can volunteer, and you can just be in communication with the school. It's not like they're all horrible and bad. It's just the system isn't completely balanced. So, you know, if that could be some people's path, is to actually work with the school, you know, providing a space at home where the child can be creative and freer, and then to work with the teachers in cultivating a healthy relationship there with the child too.
Yeah, and you know, that's part of that can be part of our passion and our creativity, for sure. You know, so the new education system, you know, if it is done the way Abraham Hicks suggests, Bashar suggests, then that's gonna switch from a teacher-led model, the teacher's in charge, to a child-led model, saying the child gets to choose. So that, and you can go child-led in Montessori, homeschool, Sudbury School, Democratic School, learning centers. There's this style is really blossoming. And so people can find out more about the change of style, for sure. And maybe start, you know, looking or looking, you know, people can start to learn about the new education system even before they switch, because what you'll start to realize is it's based on conscious parenting. It's based on peaceful parenting. It's based on seeing the child as an equal soul and a spirit, with a thriving spirit. And it's really, you know, our role as parents and caregivers to nurture them and to help them feel comfortable, so that they start tapping into their gifts and passions. Because then once, as you know, once you start following your passion, synchronicity and abundance and everything just starts lining up, and your life becomes magical. So, you know, you can start implementing those types of things no matter where your children are going to school, because if they see mom or dad happy and passionate, and then they're like, oh my God, you know, however it turns out. For me, it's more on the entrepreneurial. Well, you know, mom started a new business and she loves it, and then that led to this and that. And not that it has to be financially rewarding, but obviously that's part of it as well.
Yeah, being the example for them, definitely. And if they are in a public school, if they are at home and seeing, you know, their parents following their passion and everything, they're just going to kind of carry that vibration into the public school, and other people will pick up on that there, hopefully, and maybe it'll just blossom even there, you know.
Yeah, there are so many paths, you know, to passion and excitement. And I think that any children that are around adults, or that are focused on their passions. And, you know, it's funny because when I found out about the Bashar formula, I just said, well, I've been doing this all along. You know, my mom always told me, follow your heart, do what your heart said, you know. So I kind of took that heart-centered approach, and it very nicely went right into passion, a passion-led life. Because I've always been so sensitive, I couldn't really do anything that didn't interest me. Mm-hmm. It just was, I just couldn't be there. You know, my mom also instilled in us to do whatever you do it your best. If you're going to do it your best. So when I started to read the formula, and I said, these are some things that have been ingrained in me since I was young. So, you know, following my passion, to the best of my ability, those were kind of given. But what I've been working on, which Bashar told me when we had our interaction, to lose the insistence.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
I'm getting better, you know, insisting on a certain outcome, because I I was very insistent on an outcome. I would see a future, I would see the end result, and I would just do whatever it took to get there. And so it kind of was like taking some natural ways of being and just altering them a little bit. But when I started to take the perspective that the universe has more opportunities and potentials that I haven't even thought about, then I'm like, oh, why should I insist that, because we travel a lot, why should I insist that we have to go to Florida winter of 2022? What if the universe has something better in store? What if instead of Florida, it's like an island, or, there's so many other places, and the universe has more, so that helped me just to say, what I can think in this small mind, my physical mind, to what the whole entire universe, all that is, could calculate for me. Like, okay, I can chill out, drop my insistence, and go with the flow and see what opportunities present themselves.
Yeah, that's a challenge for a lot of people, but it's very rewarding when you can finally let go of that insistence and just enjoy the excitement of the moment and the process, and say, who knows where this is going to lead, Well, is there anything else you want to touch on today, or is that enough for you today?
I guess so. A topic that I'm more newly excited about is the hybrid children. Yeah. So when I did have the interaction, which I have to learn how to clip it, and then I can actually post it. Maybe I can share some of my interaction with the group. But I don't think that this was part of the recording, but I asked if I had hybrid children, and he said approximately 15 to 20 children have parts of my, I can't remember if he said DNA or what's the other word he would use for that?
I don't know. DNA, I would think. I mean,
so then that probably was it. I was like, wow, that's you have
I think that means that you have a large amount of, like, 30% or more in each child of your DNA. That did he explain about that?
No.
No.
There
has to be a certain percentage. Your DNA is probably in a lot more than that many, but if you have a certain amount, that means that they can call you mom, so to speak, I think.
Okay, well, thank you, because I've been wondering about that. So I've been opening more up to that concept of hybrid children. And I talked to Bashar also, like I was saying, my daughter and I love to travel, and we invested in a camper. So now we're traveling in this motorhome. And what we do just for fun is we imagine, I was just kind of comparing the Tic Tac spacecrafts to our camper, our motorhome. And this was the conversation I had with Bashar, and he was like, I was like, so what's the difference? And he was like, they're so different, right?
I love that.
Yeah, so obviously they're so different. But so what he said was that he would relate the Tic Tacs more to like an airplane rather than a camper that has like a bed and a kitchen, and it's more just like they could sleep in it the same way you could sleep on an airplane, but it's more just transporting them to the underground bases and then back to whatever, the mothership or the other planets that they're hanging out on. And it's just, since September, it's starting to resonate even more deeply with me. And I'm starting to connect with some of the children. Maybe you can relate. So I'm getting this one child, probably the strongest one, is coming across as kind of maybe like a teenage boy, and he's very wizardy. He actually will, like when I meditate and connect, he kind of like laughs at me, not in a mean way. I mean, he is very compassionate, but when I'm feeling sad about, life stuff, and he's like, you're good. Like, it's all like, you know what to do. You know the formula. You've been practicing the formula. That's the key. That's like, he'll show me that's the key. and you've got the key and you're using the key and you're good at it. So chill out, you know? But he shows me magic. He does magic. Maybe he's gathering like energy or prana. And I kind of sometimes even see like a wizard hat where maybe he's like joking around. So I don't know. Do you have any connections with a child
Yeah.
like that?
No, not with a one that does wizarding stuff. Not that I know of. I don't know all of my connections yet, but I have connections with children who they like to play with imagery like that though. I have one that I've experienced that I dreamt of him and he shapeshifted into a dolphin in the ocean. And he was very playful. I don't think they can shapeshift normally. Bashar said they weren't at that level of shapeshifter, or they're not going to be that, but maybe in dream time they can. So it was fun. He was like changing into a dolphin with a magenta stripe on his fin. And just very, I was on a deck going out over the water, and he was just playing in the water. And then he came out of the water. He walked out, and he was had blonde hair, but I call him Finn. So that's one. But I think they work in symbols a lot of times, and they also work with elementals sometimes, I've noticed. So I'm glad that you're making connections. That's exciting.
Yeah. So I'm making, opening up more to those ideas and making connections. And I guess what I'm kind of allowing them to come into my life and help me, because not, even though I follow the formula, not everything is perfect. We have a lot of moving pieces here. So there is things that I need help with, and so I'm kind of allowing them to help me more. So that's, I think that's, for me, it's like teeny tiny, and it's just going to keep expanding and expanding. And the other thought too is that, based on this education system, the new education system, it flows right into having hybrids come in, because it's a comfortable, it's a very comfortable place for we're based on kindness and respect, and it would be a very comfortable place. And then some people are even building like eco villages with this style of education system. Oh, and that was something else that I asked Bashar about, was that I do feel called to travel, but also to join like an eco village community where children are we're using child-led education. And he said, just keep following your passion, and you will see. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can just finish. The other thing that I'm loving too is the cryptic path.
Yeah.
It resonates with me so much, and doing those meditations by trees. And now I have my favorite tree, and my tree has been coming to me in my dreams now. And just like totally, I feel like I'm getting so much support. I'm getting support from nature and the hybrids, and then all of these other connections that I have to spirits. And it's pretty awesome. But I think it is based on practicing the formula. I am committed to the formula. And also, I think being on the cryptic path and seeing myself as nature and practicing those meditations, that has been very helpful for me as well. So I think that what I'm seeing is that eventually I would think my daughter and I, and probably a lot of Bashar people, especially people that are connected to the hybrid agenda, that we will see ourselves living in very, very peaceful, natural eco villages. And it'll just be so natural for hybrid children to come live among us. And it'll be just awesome. I'm sure that they're going to teach us so much about intuition and about channeling and things like that. And we can, teach them about Earth. And it feels like a really awesome future.
Yeah, it definitely does feel like that. And sometimes I think, wow, it feels like it's so far away, and when is this going to happen? But then I realize, wow, it's happening right now. We're having dreams, we're having communications, and it's so exciting just doing all these things with the cryptic path. And expanding ourselves and allowing ourselves to blossom into our true selves and making connections to all these other beings. And so it's a slow, like savoring of this whole process of bringing them into our world. And I just need to remember that. And then I start to really come back into the present moment and enjoy it as it's unfolding,
Yeah. And of course, I think we also have to remember the last step is to stay positive. Because I know for me, my body has been shifting, and, I have had discomfort and pain and some of these weird little injuries and all, and I think that my body and probably a lot of others are working through and letting go, like actually. So, learning to stay positive and gentle through my own transition of becoming higher vibration, because it's not always pretty and it's not always comfortable. But I can still stay positive. I can stay positive if I break my toe, and, I can stay positive through the discomfort, or through my body's, releasing of traumas and pains and things like that.
Yeah, I'm glad Bashar's given us a lot of tools for staying positive, like whenever I have stuff like that, sometimes I ask, what message is this giving me? I need to listen more deeply to myself. And it's an opportunity to really engage in self-care and self-love and healing of my own self. So I'm very grateful for all the tools we've been given, so we can not go down in vibration to being angry about things, and we can stay positive now.
Yeah, and we can decode our pain. I can decode that my left foot is sore, and I can be honest with myself and use those tools to say, well, what this isn't actually a bad thing. I don't have to avoid it or get mad at myself for hurting myself. I can actually see it as a gift, as an opportunity, because once those things are cleared, as that just adds to the momentum of our passions. So remembering that.
Yeah. Okay, Andrea. Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed this hour or so, and I look forward to interacting with you again sometime.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. I look forward to it as well. And I can send you the links just in case anyone wants more information on the new education system. That's really the big thing that's what I have going on right now. That I'm so excited about it. I'm happy to help, and guide any parents. Like I said, I've been looking into it for a while, and I've been implementing it, and it's not a straight, it's not straight, there's a lot of ups and downs with that too. And I'm happy to help other parents, because I was a newbie at one point, and a lot of parents helped me. So.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Erin. I'll see you in the group.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.